Well, well, well. Welcome to another fine edition of the No Life Digital Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to No Life Digital. Every Sunday, 12 p.m. Eastern, we're coming at you live from the sunny city of Philadelphia here. Nice, bright, sunny morning. We got a nice weather out. And we're going to enjoy a good show. Today we're going to be talking about all of the drama that's been going on in the world of ARPG masterpiece PathofExile. We're going to talk about Jake Paul knocking out Olympic wrestler, and MMA superstar Ben Askren in the first round with one punch. We're going to talk about Simon & Schuster refusing to distribute books. Nvidia warning of a GPU shortage that's going to last throughout the entire year. Just the topic of loot, and a couple other things, such as a bunch of movie producers pulling out of Georgia because of their voter laws that they implemented, and then a little bit on the Canon R3 leaks, or I guess announcement that happened over the week. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned to No Life Digital. What's up, my dude?
Yep. How's it going?
Good, man. I got vaxxed last week, which was my first dose of vax, which was awesome.
There you go.
Kate got her second dose, and it fucking destroyed her.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I'm only on the list for the first so far, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. The first one, I felt perfectly fine after that one, but yeah, the second one supposedly knocks you out. Most of my family is getting vaccinated. My mom and my dad got COVID, so I think when they go to get vaccinated, which is probably gonna be in a couple months because they got COVID more recently, they will be they probably only need one. I think there's research that's out that's like if you had it and you got one shot, then you have the amount of antibodies as someone that got two shots. So they're probably gonna only have to get the first shot, which is good. My brother got COVID, and he got two shots, and he said that after he got the second shot, he was like so fucking sick. He was like, it felt like he got COVID all over again. But ultimately, yeah, I'm happy. We're all getting vaxxed. Life is starting to return back to normality, hopefully. And
Slowly but surely.
yeah, if you are thinking about getting the vaccine, just do it. Don't be a fucking bitch. Don't be a fucking pussy. Just get it. Stop being a fucking bitch and pussy. It doesn't hurt. You're going to feel a little bit cold after a couple days. Okay, a little headache. Wow. It's better than possibly having neurological brain damage and permanent lung damage from getting a fucking stupid virus. And also, I read about how the mRNA works. I was curious. I was like, all right, I know of how a vaccine works. Like, that shit's been around for a while. They, incubate or they intubate a virus, a dead virus, and they give it to you. That way your body can build up an immunity against that virus. But mRNA is a lot different. What they do is they create a messenger sort of protein that sends signals to your DNA, and it has your DNA actually produce the vaccine to the virus. It makes your body produce the vaccine. So that's how it's kind of delivered. And which is super cool. And I know the woman that invented the mRNA sequencer is trying to go after cancer now, and she thinks she can cure fucking cancer with this technology, which is going to be awesome to see if that's a reality or not. But they also stated because there was a bunch of shit with Johnson & Johnson where a couple women were pretty bad blood clots, and I think one died, which kind of spooked a bunch of people. But supposedly the reason that happened was not because of the vaccine, the virus itself or the vaccine itself. It was because of the protein, the lipid that's used to send that message to the DNA. They had an allergic reaction to that specific type of protein that's used. So it's that's interesting. It's really just an allergic reaction. It wasn't any sort of side effect causing, you know what I mean? It wasn't like the vaccine caused their body to haywire. It was they just had an allergic reaction to the specific lipid that's used to transfer that whatever the fuck it's called, mRNA thing which is pretty interesting. So shout out to all these fucking smart ass people who think of this stuff. It's insane to me that someone can come up with a something like that sends messages to your DNA. I don't know how some people are so goddamn smart. It's really cool, and you should listen to them over anyone else because, that's why.
But will I get better phone signal with the 5G microchip?
Yes, of course, and you will also have an undying urge to use the Surface laptop as opposed to any other laptop. All right.
I mean, it's a good laptop.
It is pretty cool. It is a good laptop.
It's the official laptop of the NFL.
Yeah, it's true. It is. Yeah, it is the official laptop of the NFL and the official laptop of humanoids everywhere. Yeah. So that was I had a really busy week, and I saw some family, and got to show the baby around, which was fun, but. Other than that, after the vaccine, I was like, I don't know. I feel like after I got the vaccine, I was like, all right, I'm finally don't have to really, think about this anymore. I get my next one in about a month, and I'm pretty much immune to it. You know what I mean? You're like 95% immune to like any sort of illnesses that come of it. So I'm excited.
Yeah, they paused the Johnson & Johnson one because old white ladies, 6 of them in millions of cases.
Yeah, well, that's what we were talking about.
Got blood clots.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They basically
and yet, with all of the gun violence, we can't do anything about guns. But 6 people get blood clots from a vaccine. We gotta pause it.
Well,
where the fuck do our fucking values lie?
Well, I do want to point you guys. There's a funny article. I don't know if it's funny. It's actually pretty cool. And it's this guy who invented the whitest paint ever. And I figured this guy, he recently invented the whitest paint ever. And I figured, if you're ever in trouble with the police and you're a person of color, you just slather yourself up. Did they make a name
for it yet?
You just slather this on yourself.
Did they make a name for it yet? Because I want to call it Karen White.
Karen White?
Karen White.
You just get some of this Karen White, you just put it on your skin when the police show up, and you should be okay.
You put it on your skin, and immediately the police leave you alone, and the managers all come running.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff.
God. I know my power went out, so I guess I came in. You were talking about with the mRNA, the way that.
Yeah, I was looking up how it works.
No, it's super fascinating.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool, and I was saying that they're gonna try to go after cancer now with the same sort of technology. I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know if it's like specific cancer or like all
mRNA vaccines are not like a new thing. They've been around, but it's one of the most fascinating things when it comes to COVID, because the whole protein and the fact that people go, oh, but what if it mutates? And it's like, even if it does mutate, the protein that this specific protein they isolated, that is what you teach your body to identify, is so ingrained into what COVID is that even if it mutates, it would have to mutate like I think 1,000 times before it gets rid of that protein.
Yeah, and the way that it worked, it's not just the way like your body fights off that virus, like how an old vaccine works. You actually make a vaccine, like your body makes the vaccine. So it turns it into like a fucking vaccine a factory, really. It just fights off any sort of variant that's similar to this.
There's a really cool video that somebody did, like, as a cute, like, funny way to explain it, and it was like I don't know if I can find it, but I remember it was like this little skit this guy did, and he's just like, you get the vaccine, and then mRNA just is like, you have to find these forks, and you have to kill them. Here's the instructions to find the forks. You're going to make these forks, and then you're going to kill these forks. And then you have to do it, and then I'm going to die right now, dead. And the body's just like, I'm going to start making these forks. And then you make the forks, and then like the security comes by and is like, hey, what are you doing with those forks? I'm going to kill those forks. Yeah. And that way, when COVID actually hits your body goes, hey, I recognize those fucking forks.
Yeah. And using forks is an interesting
it was such a weird like concept of like create. It's just the way your body creates it. And the fact is, like, old vaccines or normal vaccines, like, you're introducing a very weak version of the actual virus into your system. But this is we're not doing that with this. This is just it's just giving your body the blueprint
Yeah,
for
exactly.
production.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the way that the way that they're messaging the protein. It's like it sees the fucking virus in any variant of it, and it's like, all right, we got to take that out. It's pretty cool, and
Yeah,
it's not new, but it is new. It's not new, but it is new, which is.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand why some people are hesitant because it is sort of new. It's not. It hasn't been.
It's not officially.
We haven't done it at this
FDA
scale.
Approved. It's only FDA approved for emergency use.
Yeah, which means nothing.
So it's approved,
that
but
means
it's not
nothing.
approved.
The FDA doesn't do anything, so don't worry about the FDA. The FDA
I've
doesn't
had
do
my
shit.
arguments for the last decade that the FDA is just too big of an entity to begin with.
They're just a liability legal department. Is all they are. They're like a league. They don't know nothing about science. They know nothing about data. You know, they might all work in the industry, but they don't actually know like what's going on. They just say okay or no okay because you have money or you don't have money. That's basically all they do.
When do we all just become California and we become just a pure nanny state where every single thing gives you cancer and everything must have a warning?
The day hell freezes over is that day that happened. But yeah, so I got the messenger protein sent to me. Did you get your vaccine, Doobie?
I got mine last Friday. I get my next shot in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so we got it around the same time.
Last Friday, not.
Oh, you get yours in
ago,
2.
But
oh, okay. I was gonna say.
It's been 9 days since I've had my vaccine.
They're making me wait a month.
I had no problems. I had some arm pain, like a bruise. It just felt like somebody punched me really hard, and then it just took 2 days, and then went away. I had no headaches, no fever, and I might have had some chills, but I couldn't tell if it was just my house being cold.
No, yeah, I had the same thing. But the second one
I've heard too many anecdotals between, the first shot's worse for Pfizer, but the second shot's fine, or the first shot for Moderna's fine, but the second shot gets you. I've heard people who've had both shots go, I had no problem. I also know people who had both shots and went, I was wrecked by both.
Yeah, it really just depends.
Your body's it's just how your body just reacts the way your body
just expect to like not work the next day, to be honest, because take that day off, and if you feel fine, then fuck it, and you got a free day off. You know.
That's why I'm taking. I wanted to schedule mine on a Friday. I'm like, listen, just give me the full weekend. I'll be fine. I can just chill in bed, do nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to my dad yesterday because he got COVID like a few weeks ago, and I was like, how was it? He was like, it was nothing that I've ever experienced before. Now my family, I don't know what it is. We don't really get sick that often. Like, we just don't really get sick. We don't get flus. We don't get, none of us have allergies, and maybe there was some of that in it because I don't remember the last time my dad was like actually sick, and he was just like he just felt like complete shit. And he was like, the worst part of it is like it's like it lasts for like 2 weeks. He's like, every day you want to feel like you're better, but it's like you're just not. Like you get worse and worse for the first week, and then the second week you think you're gonna get better, but it stays at that high level of feeling like shit until finally after 2 weeks you start to like come back to yourself.
And even when you start feeling better,
that's a long time feeling sick.
If you're unlucky, you get the long-lasting damage.
Yeah, which I was afraid that he was gonna get because he's old. He's an old fucking man.
That's one of the things about the vaccine is like, there's the articles and fuck CNN. They were running a thing where it's like even with the vaccine, these 50 people or whatever got COVID. One, the vaccine is not an end-all be-all. You won't get COVID. What it is if you do happen to get COVID, unluckily, your symptoms will nowhere be as severe. Like you will not like if you have the vaccine, probably in the most rarest of rare cases, you'll need to be hospitalized. But it will not hit you like it was hitting unvaccinated people.
Yeah.
And the other thing is,
you want to get it, man.
The way that CNN put their headline, it was just awful because the actual math. If you were to do the math that they were putting in their headline into actual like percentages, it's actually even under what they were expecting for people who are vaccinated to get COVID.
Yeah, CNN.
It's a good thing.
CNN is
CNN just doing it to grab headlines and to push that weird clickbait anti-vax shit.
Yeah, they're a problem. CNN. Something's going on over there. All right, let's get into some fun stuff. Actually, I want to talk about this story first. This is pretty interesting. So this is the first movie that pulled out over the Georgia. Oh man, these aren't links. These are just notes to the fucking article. Notion. Why you do this to me?
There's a bunch of stuff that pulled out of Georgia.
Was there? I only saw this, but I wanted to talk
Movie.
about
Well,
this.
I think there's a few movies, maybe a few TV shows. For sure, the MLB All-Star Game got pulled. We know that.
So here is the article here. You know, it's Newsweek, so I can't fucking like look at it correctly without
I'm
this
telling
ad.
you, with the way that tax credits works for film and TV, there are going to be plenty of other cities and other states that are seeing this going, we'll give you tons of tax credits. Come here.
Well, this is what I'm curious. So Will Smith's Emancipation becomes first movie to exit Georgia over voting laws, and they were shooting in Georgia. There's a lot of productions that happened in Georgia, and this was one of them. And because of the voting laws that were put into place, which are actually like, you know, I don't know many people that, you know, on both sides of the aisle that would agree with these fucking voter laws, but a pretty big deal for Georgia. And if they lose this entire, I mean, Jerry, you know, like that's a huge part of the industry or a huge part of the economy in Georgia is like the film industry. Like, holy shit. If this becomes a real like problem for Georgia, is that enough to make them go back on this? Because it's going to fucking devastate their economy.
No,
it's the
not enough
tax
to make them go back.
Yeah, the tax credits are like the reason why so much stuff is filmed in Georgia. There's we could do a whole deep dive on just the way that film industry and the TV industry works with tax credits with local governments.
Yeah, it's more than just that though. I mean, there's actual studios here now. Like,
oh yeah. I mean, they're there now.
He's not leaving.
Like, it's a full blown like integral part of Georgia's economy is like that industry.
Mm-hmm.
And like pulling that out, I mean, you don't think it's enough for them to go back on the laws? I mean, I don't know. It's a pretty big hit to their economy, but
I mean, it's a huge hit, yeah. But also,
when it starts,
like, when you make laws of this type in the first place, you don't give a fuck.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. It is
the only way this affects the law is if enough people pull out and enough jobs and economy tank to where those people are now threatening to pretty much vote blue.
I mean,
I don't
maybe,
even think
but...
they give it. I don't even think they.
They won't budge on it.
Yeah,
you would need an entire new administration to change those rules.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'm curious to know if more and more are going to pull out. They're probably going to give more incentives, I would assume. So that might.
And I can already see the way that they'll flip it.
Flip what?
You know. Oh, just the way that they'll flip, like, oh, they're pulling out of Georgia for, you know, they don't believe in blah blah blah. They'll spin it.
Oh, I see.
They'll try to spin it to be like, oh, the Hollywood elite doesn't care about Georgia.
No, they don't.
They definitely don't. Jobs.
They definitely don't. But who cares about it's like who cares?
I'm just saying they'll just spin it for
I hate patriotism so much, man. I really do. It's like who gives a shit? They're coming into your state and they're spending a lot of money. They're giving people a lot of jobs. You know what I mean? Like, why do they have to care about your fucking stupid state? You know, just let them spend their money.
Nationalism is a fucking disease.
It's so stupid. But I'm curious to know, like, if more are gonna pull out of this and how this is gonna affect them.
Probably, yeah. The fucking MLB already pulled out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Atlanta Braves' response was not that great.
What was their response? I mean, what can they do about it? Are they gonna fucking not be the Atlanta Braves anymore?
Yeah.
We can say we're not gonna play any home games.
I mean, dude, our governor literally is a borderline QAnon Trumper still, even though Trump's now gone. He's still Trumper.
Yeah, even after the QAnon documentary.
Yeah, but like, dude, this is a dude who got his elected, but why driving around Atlanta with a giant bus saying he's chasing the illegals. Like that was his campaign.
Yeah, I mean you're right. You're right because you know putting in laws like this, it's really not about. They couldn't care less about the economy of Georgia or how it works. No. I mean they just want to stay in power and you know sell their books or whatever.
Yeah, here we go.
Like that's literally all this.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's posturing for that. Like they don't give a fuck.
The Atlanta Braves are deeply disappointed by the decision of Major League Baseball to move its 2021 All-Star Game. This was neither our decision nor our recommendation, and are saddened that fans will not be able to see this event in our city. The Braves organization will continue to stress the importance of equal voting opportunities, and we had hoped our city could use this event as a platform to enhance the discussion. Our city has always been known as a uniter in divided times, and we will miss the opportunity to address issues that are important to our community. Unfortunately, businesses, employees, and fans in Georgia are the victims of this decision. We will continue to support the community legacy projects.
That's true. That is true.
And are in processes.
No, it sucks for people of Georgia. Like,
and then they also removed the All-Star logo from their jerseys and hats.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fine response. There's really nothing they're not going to be able to like go along with it, of course, because the Atlanta Braves. Unless they were just like
a lot of the backlash against the Braves press release was essentially a lot of people were like, the fact that they moved a baseball game is really small compared to what got passed.
Yeah, but I also see what they mean by
it's not for them though. That's their major revenue for the entire year.
Yeah, exactly. Like
baseball already is not a. I don't think baseball's doing very well in terms of money.
No, exactly. So that makes that matter more.
Even before the pandemic, they weren't doing well with
like
money.
They were expecting like this nice, boon to their economy over there, and now it's not happening. So like the people of Georgia are the most affected of this.
They're not going to be like, hell yeah, brother! I just lost a couple of $1 million from one game.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah, exactly. It sucks, but not. I mean, I think that was a pretty good response. Pretty down the line center, and the people of Georgia are the most affected of it. Really, it's what it comes down to. So yeah, there you go. Will Smith, you're not gonna be able to see him in Georgia at least for some time. And then who knows how else this will go. Hollywood is very, very fickle like that. They have so much money, they'll be like, nah, we don't agree with your cause. We don't agree with your state. We'll spend a few million and go somewhere else.
You know how M. Night films everything in Philly?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a buddy of mine. I'm not going to name names because...
Is he M. Night?
Confidentiality. He is working on Servant.
Oh, nice. Is he the director?
It's a friend of mine. No. I don't even know what. I actually don't even know what his his role is. But he's working he works in the industry. And he's a cool dude. I'm not gonna name my sources.
You don't have to.
NDAs. But he gives me the lowdown. Like he was working on the Kate Winslet thing, and now he's working on this. According from what I've heard, M. Night is pretty cheap when it comes to paying people.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't assume he
surprised.
is. I wouldn't assume he is, unless he's a producer.
I believe he directs and produces all his stuff.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he is cheap, but
I mean, when you're filming in PA, I don't think there's a ton of tax credits.
There's a lot more productions I mean, there was some show that was filmed here with Jason Segel and there's been some stuff here.
They film parts of movies, normally exterior shots.
Yeah, if it's like about Philly. They did World War Z here, which was pretty cool in some areas.
What was the 21 Bridges or something like that? That movie, they filmed parts of that in Philly.
I don't know how the tax credits work with that either. That's I'm sure the same sort of system. They all want a piece of that action, man.
And then when you get involved with that, you got to deal with like what, 15 to 20 different unions.
Oh, with Philly for sure. Oh yeah, I didn't even think of
Phillies
that.
And actors.
Oh
and movies.
Yeah.
Like,
and if you don't, you get the big rat.
Guild.
You get the big rat, the blow up rat in front of your fucking thing.
Yeah, you got the Writers Guild, the Screen Actors Guild. You've got probably there's probably a guild for grips.
Yeah. No, it's probably. I do not envy that job, the financial accountant for movies. That seems like a fucking nightmare. Fuck that. All right, moving on. This is a big story here. Jake Paul knocks out.
Rigged.
Knocks out. Olympic wrestler, MMA superstar, MMA darling, Ben Askren. Here is DC. Hold on, I just want to play DC's reaction to this because it's.
Oh, this kid punched the out of Ben, man. Come on, Ben. Come on, Ben. You let this boy do you like that, man. Come on, man. Somebody got to do something about this Jake Paul, man.
How much did Ben get paid to take the fall? That's what I want to know.
They're going to have to give him somebody real now.
Dude, Ben's an idiot. He sucks. He's not a striker. I don't know what happened to him because when he was in Bellator, he was like a great fucking, I think it was Bellator. He was a great fighter, and then all of a sudden he got kneed in the face by what's his name, and now he's like losing his mind.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna take the side. I'm gonna take the side that's Giga Brain, Galaxy Brain, and say that this shit was rigged.
No, it's not rigged. There's no fucking way. There's so much money that's involved
I think he
in this,
got
though.
paid a huge amount of money to take a fall and make Jake Paul look good.
Possibly. I mean, possibly because there were a lot of bets on this, and this isn't like a boxing.
You had the people like studying the film, right? He gets punched in the face, falls down, immediately gets up, but right there, that's when the ref calls the whole fight.
Yeah.
Really?
And he
that shit
did.
Was staged.
If you watch the fight, he does look like he'd never fought a day in his life. Like, it doesn't look right. I will give you that. It does look a little bit odd. But Ben Askren does suck at striking, so that it makes it... Maybe that's why they chose him, though, because he does kind of look like he sucks at fighting. I can't imagine Jake Paul punching anyone and knocking them out. It just doesn't kind of register either. How much money do you think... All right, if he did take a fall, how much do you think he would have had to have asked to take the fall?
I have no idea.
They probably made I would say they probably made like 10 to 20 million on this fight, maybe even more. You think he asked for like 10 million, 5 million?
He got the total half.
He's never he can never fight again, mind you. After this, you can't go back and fight
his
again.
Career, he's pretty much knowing that his career is done.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He's going out.
You gotta give me like 5 to 10
If you
million.
told me your career's done, you can't fight again, but hey, if you want to do this fight, we're gonna give you this much money. Just take the fall. You live the rest of your life. Sure, in this day and age, no one's gonna be talking about it in a year.
Yeah, true, but
give it
people
six,
that
give
fight,
it next,
people that fight do.
You're out of the business. Who cares anymore?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, how much money do you think you have to ask for in that situation? It's like, especially something that you love to do, right? Because this is like his passion. It's like he teaches wrestling. He can't go back and teach kids now after getting knocked out by Jake Paul. What the fuck? I'm using the soundboard
Logan Paul
more.
Just on WWE on WrestleMania 2? Like, come on. It's all smelling a little fishy here.
It's yeah, I don't see Logan Paul's supposed to fight Mayweather too, and I don't imagine if that
Mayweather
happens.
Will murder him.
Yeah, but imagine he knocks him out. Like, now that's literally something that we have to acknowledge now that could happen because he could pay off Mayweather.
In the boxing ring, didn't Mayweather beat Conor McGregor?
Yeah, he whooped his fucking ass.
So how you gonna tell me that Logan Paul even stands a fucking... And not Logan Paul, Jake Paul.
No, I'm not. I'm saying he could pay him off. He could pay him off.
You think Floyd Money... Oh, then again, Floyd Money Mayweather.
Floyd Money Mayweather, Mr.
The bag is big enough, you'll never know.
Not in good money, ever.
I think that would have to be a really big bag, though.
But they're going to get a bit... Well, I don't know, because that fight's not as hype as this one was. This one was pretty fucking hyped up. I think Ben Askren... If he took a fall, I think he got 10 million. I think he got 10 million.
I don't know how hyped up this fight was, because this is... You guys talking about this is literally the first of me hearing it.
It was pretty hype.
On Triller or whatever the heck it's called.
Yeah, it was on Triller.
And apparently there's
it's not a commissioned fight. It's like there's no body that is regulating it. You know what I mean?
Apparently there's not rumors, but there's like some talk that like they don't throw on the best fights. Like the Mike Tyson fight.
No, they're like celebrity boxing.
Was not good.
They're celebrity boxing events. That's essentially what they are. They're fun to watch,
Which makes sense why it would be rigged.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the point where it's like, all right, well, there is no regulating body. It's all sort of like under their table. Oh, this guy's gonna saw. Awesome. The day that we do the show, he saws outside my window. That's fun. But yeah, all right. Anyways, Jake Paul got knocked out by Olympic athlete Ben Askren.
I'm telling you though, Floyd Money Mayweather and Paul would be a huge draw because a lot of people would come in going, I want to see Floyd.
No, that's what this was for. That's what this was for. No one is expecting like Logan Paul to win against Mayweather.
No. People want to see him die.
But in this fight, there is this allure that I guess Jake could win. Like there was like, all right, there's a lot of like tension here, right? Jake Paul is not a real fighter, of course. Ben Askren is, but Ben Askren sucks.
Give him a name to beat in order to pump up his cred.
Yeah, and if this wasn't staged, credit to Jake Paul. That's pretty cool. And you have, I guess, a career in this industry, in this fighting industry, until you fight someone real. But yeah, this is I don't know. It's a
saw
weird
the video.
situation because he does get hit and never puts his hands up, and then all of a sudden falls to the ground, gets right back up. They call the fight. It's a little odd. And then you have Snoop Dogg saying, "I won $2 million. I won $2 million." It's like, all right, well, did you really? Did you rig this? You know what I mean?
Did you see the video of Paul talking about like his security guard that passed away, but in the background the robot's just dancing?
No,
Robot's just doing moves while Paul's like, yeah, a couple days ago,
what
my security
robot?
guard
He has a
died.
dancing robot?
It was a dancing robot in the fucking background while Paul's giving this like supposed to be a heartfelt thing about his dead security guard.
Okay,
And it's just so
that's pretty
fucking
cool.
weird.
All right, moving on from this. This was okay. Anyways, let's talk about this story. So I want to know what you guys have to feel on this story, which is interesting. The free speech issue. So this is from The Guardian. Simon & Schuster refuses to distribute book by officer who shot Breonna Taylor. So this is, and I have no idea what this book is supposed to be about, but I just kind of wanted to touch on the topic of not publishing because that does seem to be a bigger topic of discussion these days. Now, Simon & Schuster, of course, is a gigantic publisher, so maybe it's a little bit more understandable that there's a lot more pressure on them to not do something like this, where maybe there's more independent publishers that would take on something like this, where the press wouldn't really hurt them that much. But nonetheless, you know, this discussion on not publishing books because of who the person was or the views that they have or what the book's about.
I mean, it's a free market. No one is required to publish your book for you. That's why they do self-publishing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a good point.
If you pitch a book to somebody, like a publishing house, and they go, yeah, we're not really interested in that, you can't turn around and go, they're silencing me. No, they're just deciding not to put your product on the free market.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about them, like, pulling books? Like, what happened with, like, I guess the Dr. Seuss is the most recent example.
Pulling books is weird because then you get into the fine line of, one, censorship, and two, almost reminiscent of book burnings.
Well, that's what exactly I mean, I'm not trying to make an equivalency of book burning to not
Dr. Seuss
publishing
is a
books.
case, I mean, Dr. Seuss is a case where it's like, his books for children are great. They're great. When you separate the art from artist, right? They're great books for children. There's some of the most like profound, like not profound, but like it's your childhood. Like so many kids grow up with that. But I think it's important at a certain age to be like, okay, yeah, Dr. Seuss is great, but let's not revere him completely because he did have some kind of problematic views. That's a discussion that you should have about artists, separating art from artists.
Yeah. I mean, you could say the same about Disney.
It can be hard to do.
You could say the same about Disney, you know, the type of stuff that Disney was doing too. Not to the
You
extent.
can say that with certain actors. What's his name? Who's the one from House of Cards who was diddling young boys?
Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, Spacey. Some of my favorite movies are Kevin Spacey movies.
Yeah.
But it's hard to like.
sure.
Do I enjoy the film? Like he wasn't the only person in that movie. There are other people in movies. There are
No,
other people who
you
work on
enjoy it
movies.
because Kevin Spacey is a fucking amazing actor. You have to.
But a
acknowledge
shit
it.
person.
Yeah, but can you separate the art from the artist?
From the
I mean, I
artists,
think you
yeah,
definitely
it's
can.
hard.
I definitely think you can. And I definitely think you probably should
Like-
try to.
James Woods. I think James Woods is a phenomenal Hades. One of my favorite Disney films in Hercules. James
I do
Woods, the
think
person, is awful.
I do think you could also have that argument, though, of do you separate the art from the artist before or after the fact?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's another part of that conversation you could have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating because I'm interested in this story, not necessarily because I believe, you know, his side or anything like that, but I always think more information is always better. But who knows, man, because nowadays you just never fucking know with what
It also
information does to people.
yeah, for me, it's also like, I mean, I don't fault the publishing house for not publishing it.
No, I don't
At all.
either. Obviously, that's especially Simon Schuster, and he is getting published, it seems, by a smaller independent publisher here.
Somebody who's willing to take the risk.
Yeah, but I kind of wanted to go like, all right, well, imagine if they did
And I
decide
think
to
a lot of
publish
it's
it and
gonna
then they
come down
pulled it
to-
because of backlash or whatever. And like,
I think a lot of it's going to come down to what's the actual content in the book. Is
No, I
it
don't
him
think that
defending
matters, though.
himself?
I don't think that matters though.
Is it just his? I mean, it's also if you buy the book, you're technically financially supporting him.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess if they're taking on
And
the
that's the thing
publisher,
is
if they decide to publish it, they're financially supporting him because they are, they're giving them money basically. That's how that works. I don't know. It's pretty interesting, and
like, what's the base that's gonna buy this book? I'm assuming I know what the base is.
yeah, but then again, you never know. Like, I mean, I'm interested to hear like kind of all sides of the story, no matter what the situation is, just to. And especially like with books is interesting too. Is like no one reads books that much. It's like books is not very.
I would
big
say physical
medium.
books. Physical books are definitely on. Anything physical these days is definitely on down the decline. But man, ebooks and e-readers like the Kindle.
Yeah, but they don't even come close to like a
Audiobooks,
percentage of
those
like
are
what
big.
music sells. You know what I mean? What movies do? What video games do? Like books are such.
I mean,
a
those are
pittance.
much less. Those are much less of a time commitment.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like, who's reading a book
I
in
don't
2
know.
hours?
I mean, I don't know. You look at my fucking
Even
Path of
listen to an
Exile
audiobook-
playtime, and then you could argue that it's not true.
Even if you listen to an audiobook, it's still gonna be like what, 20 hours?
Yeah. I don't know. I find this discussion. I wonder if this is going to be something we're gonna have to see more of in the future, because there's always another side to this type of, I guess censorship's not the right word, but this type of restriction, And in the case of Dr. Seuss, like, I didn't know that he was fucking overtly racist towards black people. I didn't know that was a thing about Dr. Seuss. I saw those comics.
Black people either.
When I saw
It
those,
wasn't
yeah,
just black people.
when I saw those comics, it was like, holy shit! I had no idea about any of this. This is nuts.
Yeah, a lot of his political cartoons in his day were have not aged.
Yeah.
Really well. They've aged
Was
like
he a
cheese.
product of his environment? Was he a product of his time? Who knows? Like, I honestly, I don't know. It's a interesting situation.
But just because he did those, does that automatically make one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish now a problematic work? No.
I don't think so either. And I also don't
still
think
would
that
read-
Dr.
I-
Seuss
I-
is that good either. I think it's kind
I
of
still
overrated.
would like share Dr. Seuss's books with children, but at some point in their age, you would be like, when you're ready to have that conversation about, separating art from artists and why some people their art does something and like that. When you're ready to have that, when your child is old enough to have that conversation and have them understand it, I think that's a fine conversation to have.
Yeah, I guess.
And using Dr. Seuss as something they grew up with is a well put thing. Is to go, hey, sometimes people that we like do things in the past that aren't good.
Yeah, I guess.
And that's
All right.
if you can separate art from artists. Some people just can't. They just cannot do it.
Yeah.
And that's
True.
that's acceptable.
All right. I think that's a dangerous precedent if you can. I think we should strive to try to do so, but that's my opinion on the matter. Nvidia warns great GPU shortage will continue throughout 2021. So Nvidia came out and they're like, you're probably not getting one this year, guys, unfortunately. Are they going to release a 40 series? Are they going to release a Super 30 series in the meantime? If they do, does that help supply? Does that only further restrict the supply? I don't know how market dynamics work in that situation. I'd be curious to know, like, if they were saying, like, okay, now we're releasing a 30 series Super. Do the people that are kind of hoarding these things and flipping them, do they then move on to the Supers? But then there's still a lot of demand for just this 30 series? Not exactly sure, but it does seem as if you were in the market for a GPU and you haven't gotten one, it's going to be tough for the rest of the year. Which is crazy because I remember back in January or December rather, they were saying like March is when you should start to see demand equal supply or supply equal demand. And then that wasn't the case. There's extreme demand still for these products and there is a restricted supply. So it's just hard to get. And this is going on throughout the industry. It's not really just GPUs. GPUs are just the worst offender. Especially
By far
because
the worst offender.
Yeah, especially because also it's like, we're in that like kind of like jump year market. We're like going to next gen. So a lot of people kind of feel like, all right, it's time to upgrade. And, that's only going to increase the demand for the product. So,
You can buy a $300 like Nvidia 710 graphics card.
you could buy a fucking $800 like riser if you want. So there you go. if you want to buy a GPU, you're still gonna have to struggle to get one. It is possible though. You can get them if you put the time in, but unfortunately, it's not gonna be as easy as like, oh, let's just go to Best
No,
Buy and
it's-
see which one I want to buy, or let me go to Micro Center and see, oh, maybe I want this version or I want this AIB. No, you get what you can get, or you don't get it.
Yeah, and I'm on team don't get it, because that it's not that it's that hard to get them. Like, even if you go to Micro Center, you can still usually find one nowadays. The problem is they're like so overpriced that it's just like, no.
Yeah, you're gonna be paying
Like,
a
I'm not getting
markup.
out of principle.
Yeah,
Not buying
Maybe,
a 700 graphics card at Micro Center for $13.
Maybe by the time you can buy one, you can take all your Dogecoin that you've amassed and use it to buy one.
there you go.
Dude, I have
Dogecoin.
all of that Dogecoin by not buying a graphics card for 2 times the fucking.
Or you
price
buy the
it
graphics card and then
costs.
you can fucking mine some dogies.
How does a meme
Yeah.
currency hit 30 cents?
I don't know. I don't
Uh,
even. Who cares about Dogecoin?
Elon Musk.
Did he tweet something? Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Oh,
Dude,
okay.
that's how Dogecoin works. That's literally how Dogecoin works. Is you just gotta get it trending on Twitter, you win.
You just wait for Elon to tweet it? Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine. I've made $100 on it. So
Oh,
far,
you got
so-
it on the dogies?
I
Nice.
don't know. When is that 2 cents? Are you kidding me?
Good shit, man. Oh, really? You got in that early?
I bought it as a joke. It's bought as a joke.
Yeah, so did everyone else who bought it. And somehow they all made money.
I'll put $20 into this joke. I'll gamble on it.
Man, the free economy is a beautiful thing sometimes.
I love it. Oh, yeah. Talking about graphics cards. Did you guys see the thing with the place? Well, this is not really graphics cards, but the PS5 and Xboxes.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
So the C-bomb in the PlayStation 5 and PS4, they have a CMOS battery. PlayStation 5 runs only select physical games and no digital game offline with missing CMOS battery.
So it's like a
and the
hacking battery?
PS5 CMOS battery failure will prevent use of digital games. So the CMOS, I guess it's a clock battery.
Yeah.
And
that's
this
exactly what it
is the PS4 also has the same problem. And so people are like, oh, Xbox doesn't have the CMOS battery, so they're fine. They'll not be affected by this. But apparently the Xbox Series is designed with a nefarious DRM setup. Like C-bomb, this will one day render all software unplayable as repairs, formats, and new users will become impossible. So both consoles have their problems with conserving their future. Like, well, I mean, and we talked about it before with Jim Ryan. Like, who cares about old games?
What do you mean?
This
So
is
once this
diff-
battery dies, then you're saying you can't play any games on it?
And because consoles aren't really well adapted for people to go into them themselves to replace these batteries, like not like a PC is.
Right.
And by the time they do go, probably within 10 to 15 years, they're saying, like, the repairs are done. Nobody's doing repairs on these. You'd have to specially find a special, and if the free market, you might find somebody who's willing to go, hey, I'll fix these for you, but it's going to cost you.
Okay. That's interesting. Why are they adding that? So I'm assuming it's because for
They're calling it
people
the
that want to
C-bomb
hack it, that want to
scenario.
do like ROMs and shit, right? So you can't ROM your system and just play like downloaded ISOs on your Xbox. I'm assuming that's why they do that.
Yeah, so the CMOS battery.
It's got to be attuned to some sort of internal clock. That way it's
Yeah,
always on
I think there's the clock thing, and I think that's why Xbox, the at least the 360, like they didn't do that, because the way you know they didn't do that is when you unplug it from the wall and plug it back in, it asks you to input the time unless you're connected to the internet. But despite that, it just resets the factory time, like there's like a default date, and then it doesn't prevent you from playing your digital and physical games. The problem with this is, on the PS4 especially, if that CMOS battery dies, you're not only able to not play digital games, there's only a handful of physical games that will work.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Okay. I mean, yeah, I guess for people that want that system for, decades long for whatever reason, maybe they're collectors or something.
I mean, I'm a big proponent of games conservation.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely a anti that. There's definitely Anti-games conservation.
Jim Ryan and Nintendo, we see you.
Maybe if there's enough people that want it, it's just say, hey, look, at 10 years, 15 years from now, going to Sony and saying, hey, we can't play our fucking games.
About it yet.
Yeah.
Let's be completely honest. This current gen PS5 is such a giant fucking brick. There's gonna be a PS5 Slim. That'll fix your problem. Who cares?
Yeah, and I'm sure in some area they'll be like, all right, well, we'll just turn off this system that allows it to, download an update for it, and then you can play it for the 5 people that want to use it.
The other thing too is if you're relying on a CMOS battery, like I'm gonna be honest, you're fine.
Oh, this is a fun one.
Those things sip so little. Like you realize your computer is powered by a CMOS battery, right?
Yep.
And the Commodore 64 is powered by a CMOS battery that still hasn't failed yet. Like it's gonna last 50 years. That's how little power it sips. Like
unless it's effective.
It is a fail safe. You know what I mean? But like, right
now they're more hypotheticals than proven cases. But when they start to become proven cases, that's when it'll be a fun discussion.
Yeah.
And somebody wants to take in the time to set up their own repair when the PS4, like Sony isn't doing repairs. Somebody has a chance to make some money.
There you go.
Hey, free market.
The free market episode.
So
Speaking of which, the free market has canceled Lord of the Rings MMO from Amazon.
There's
games.
an MMO like that you can play right now, Lord of the Rings, that isn't this.
I had no idea.
Yeah, but
it's bad. It's bad, but you can play it.
That MMO sucks.
Yeah, LOTR is terrible. Lord of the Rings Online is not good.
People were hoping that with Amazon backing, they could actually make a good one. But at the same time, New World looks bad, if I'm being honest. From like an MMO player standpoint, it looks fucking not good. Maybe it'll end up being okay.
I don't think it's gonna get released.
There are 2 MMOs I am looking forward to.
I think Amazon Game Studios is gonna be gone in the next 3 years.
Probably. But the people were hoping that, hey, okay, sure, no one really cared. Like, if I'm being honest, in Lord of the Rings as a setting kind of sucks, to be honest, in my opinion, if you're going to do an MMO.
Just play Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah, that's another shitty MMO.
It's
still not a good MMO. Yeah. But, like, okay, the point is people are hoping that, hey, cool, you could have something to actually compete with WoW if you have Amazon level money. That was the hope. Obviously, it wasn't going to happen, but that's the hope.
Yeah,
the hope over here shaking his head while he plays Phantasy Star Online.
Hey! Open beta for New Genesis, or closed beta for New Genesis, starts in a few weeks. Sign-ups this week. You know I'm signing up for that.
Well, didn't they cancel that Crucible game? Wasn't there another game that they canceled?
Amazon's games department.
They've been canceling a lot and putting all of their chips in the New World, which New World looks like it will be okay. That's where I'll put where it's a game that looks like it'll end up being fine.
Yeah.
Just fine.
Yeah,
so all the hype and promise they said it will not have a lot of that. But it will have engaging PvP combat, it looks like, and a couple of interesting systems.
And I like their integration with Twitch. I think that's going to be cool. If it gets released, I honestly don't know if this is going to happen. I think Amazon is going to be like, you know what? Let's wrap this shit up.
I'm taking the dip in a couple weeks into my first foray into Final Fantasy XIV.
Oh, the MMO one?
Final Fantasy XIV is okay. It's definitely the best WoW competitor by far. By far, it's a so much better game than ESO in my opinion. ESO is a good game, but ESO is like, I just want to chill and collect and craft.
I have a lot of friends.
That's the thing.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that play 14, and they're all kind of like trying to get me to play with them, and they're kind of telling me how like the new updates and everything's so much more streamlined than it was when it came out. Even with like the new update to where the free trial goes to level 60 and includes the entire first expansion. Oh, and then they're like, and from what I've been told, the story is good enough that it's almost like playing a Final Fantasy. Even if you were to just solo it, the story is really good.
The story of
I
an
mean,
MMO.
I'm
you
a
have to
story
really
gamer,
you have
so
to really like Final Fantasy stories. If
Yeah.
and that's the thing is, I
You know what I
generally
mean?
do like Final Fantasy stories. It's one of my favorite
That's-
franchises.
Yeah, you
that's
might.
fair.
Like.
Not the recent entries, but I mean, classics are still great.
it's it's a pretty good MMO. I'll be honest. Like
I mean,
it's,
level
it's not my
60
cup of tea, but
Yeah, level 60 an entire first expansion for free. There's a lot of content
Let me
there
ask
just
you,
to see if I like it.
is the combat
Yeah.
similar to WoW, where it's like cast, where it's not
yes,
like?
but
It's slow from what I
it's
understand.
slow as fuck, dude.
Your
That's why I can't
cooldowns are
play it.
really long.
Oh, that's kinda
well,
stupid.
it's your cooldowns are really long, but everything about it's super slow, which some people really like, and I think it is a very good MMO. But for me, as someone who played a lot of WoW,
You want it
it's
quicker. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I know
From what
exactly.
I
Like if
understand,
once you get, I play competitive WoW, you know what I mean, and once you start getting into like, okay, this is what I really like doing, and you're trying to like be very good at it. Final Fantasy 14's hard because it's the GDC's 2.5 seconds.
Mhm.
Like WoW, it's 1.5, and then you get haste and you can put it down to 1. And what the GC global cooldown is how many buttons you can press.
Yeah.
So like for WoW, I can press a button every second. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Final Fantasy, you have 30 actions a minute.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that is
literally
pretty
it.
slow. Which
And
kind of
then
makes
you're-
sense
it's
though.
your
In
big-
this,
your
in the
big-
in the idea of Final
you-
Fantasy, that does kind of make sense because it is a slow RPG in my opinion. The
Yeah.
turn-based style,
Yeah.
you know.
It's just like once you start really
I
getting
wonder-
into those games, it's like, oh,
Well,
I wonder
also
if that's
Oh.
also. I'm also wondering if that's. I mean, it's slower by design, but I'm
Yeah.
wondering if that
Oh, yeah.
design is also supposed to be more new player friendly.
Yeah,
Whereas
it
WoW, I mean, so many people have been playing
No,
WoW for
100%
so
is.
long that they're not really caring about catering to new players.
yeah, fuck new players.
I mean, they do try, but like,
Yeah.
it is a different design style, and it's just not for me. But it's
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who like it, and that's good for them. But it's kind of like the classic WoW versus retail WoW argument, where at the same time, I really like classic WoW, but it's a much easier game,
yeah.
and I probably play it more. But it's still, I just like, let me press buttons fast, please.
I agree. Yeah.
Let me make.
Wait, I got a
make-
question about, because this is an article that I found. There's like it was with Kotaku, and they spoke with the guys from Diablo, and they said why video game loot is so addictive, and they basically gives the system of like you kill an enemy and it's like you pulling a fucking slot machine, and like whatever that spits out, that's the hook. You know, you always get something new, and then eventually sometimes you get a fucking jackpot and you get a sick item. There's like Final Fantasy have that type of system going on, because that's what I don't like about ESO, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of got bored of it.
It's also what retail WoW had an issue with, because they had too many of their Diablo team come in to do loot, and it was cool for like 5 minutes, and then it got real old.
Yeah, I'm just curious as to like that, how Final Fantasy's
I don't know
loot
about
works.
at the very top end, because I've never played it that far, because again, it's just too slow for me.
Yeah. But I do think that, I mean, as someone who has been has been fucking solely addicted to Path of Exile for the past few months, which we're going to talk about next, that idea of like that's because there was a post on the Path of Exile subreddit from someone who's a gambling addict saying like, look, if you have a problem playing Path of Exile, it's probably because of the way that their loot system works, and you should think about, you know, taking breaks or not playing it at all if it's, you know, causing you, I guess, any sort of like triggers. But I do think that that's sort of there's such a fine line between like too much of that, too much RNG, too much of a slot machine, and then also too much, like kind of like with the sense of like ESO, where it's like there is no slot machine really. There's really just like, you know what you're gonna get out of these items, you know what items to chase for. Once you get them, you're kind of like, okay, you know, what do I do now? There's no real hook to that. Whereas sometimes there's a little bit too much of that RNG. There's too much of a hook where you just feel like I'm not winning anything today. You know, I'm not winning anything this week. I'm not winning nothing, and then you kind of get burnt out on that end. And I think it's kind of straddling that. I think that's why I've been so addicted to Path of Exile. I think they've really kind of nailed the balance between the two, where it's almost like you really can kind of go both ways with it. You know, there's just enough deterministic crafting and item getting, and there's just enough. Well, and the rest of it is basically all RNG, which is kind of fun, right? So I always thought that kind of system is really important when you're talking about like a loot-based game. But I don't know if Final Fantasy is a loot-based game or if it's like a skill-based sort of game, or if it's, I have no idea on that. But I am curious because I would be interested in something like that. All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm watching a Final Fantasy 14 raid also to try to find out this question, the answer for your
I was just gonna
question.
say that
The raid's
yeah.
like really cool, but yes, it's your first raid. It's a very good first raid.
Yeah.
Yeah, from what, like I said, I've got a lot of friends who play it, so they're willing to help me like get into it. And from what they told me, like, so I'm not a person that likes to spend subscription fees on a game like MMOs.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they're like,
so-
yeah, if you can literally pay the $12 for the month, and you can just binge and then cancel, and then you can just whenever you want it, when the next expansion comes, you can just plop the $12 on a month again. You don't have to constantly pay every month. You can just kind of pay as you go.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Like,
how
okay, I
most
might
of
do
them.
that. I'm more interested in that than like dedicating, because this is the thing when it
Well, that's
comes
how
to
most of
like
them are.
a subscription service.
You could do that with all of them.
Yeah, they're all like that.
That's
Yeah,
how they all
I'm
work
just-
now.
Yeah, it's pretty much just pay as you play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing with you do with WoW is if you and especially if you are super into it, you can just buy the WoW token. It's dirt cheap and it's free. That I don't pay for WoW.
Yeah.
I pay for WoW to start the subscription for 1 month, and then everything after that is just paid by playing because it's easy as shit.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too that they do that. I think they're the only ones that do that. I don't think ESO has that.
It's really funny how like when you look back on the history of FF14, and it's kind of
That's why
something I want to
multiboxing-
watch.
That's why multiboxing got so bad for a while. Is it's just if you know what
yeah,
you're
that's
doing
true.
in that game, it's super easy to get money. So it's super easy to pay for accounts.
So those who don't know,
Yeah.
multiboxing, you're just running like virtual machines and different instances at the same time to farm shit.
Yeah,
They're on
FF14's
VMs, dude. It's just have a good
FF14's launch was so bad that it's really crazy how they were able to scrap it and then also make it part of the lore. The
Yeah,
fact
I mean,
that they
it's been
reset
around
the
for so
world
long.
is part of the lore.
I remember I remember when it first came out and being like, "Oh, that's really interesting." And that must have been like, it feels like a decade ago. Like, how long ago has that game been around?
Vanilla FF14 has been out for what came out a good while ago. Let me see.
It came out 2013. 2013. So
Vanilla.
almost a decade ago.
And then they did the 2.0 like scrap probably a couple years ago. Like what, 17?
Yeah, and then it was like a top Steam
And that's
charter.
when people like that's when they gave it to I can't remember the guy's name, but he's the guy who's kind of credited for saving FF14, and he's the guy who they're giving FF16 to, the next single player game. So I don't know, I'm hopeful because 15 was bad.
Yeah. All right, let me talk about.
mean-
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to cut off your Path of Exile, but I was trying to find out like your loot questions.
Yes, I wanna know.
It's like,
Is there a
still
loot
trying to find
system?
but like the raids honestly look pretty solid, but they're just slow.
Mhm.
Like it's WoW mechanics. It's a lot of WoW mechanics and raids, but
Sure.
it doesn't look as good, and they're slow, but they're solid mechanics.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like it's a cool fight, but it's just like, okay, I've seen all of this. I'm going through this raid of just boss fights, and it's just like I've seen all of these mechanics, and here they are again. just
Yeah, I mean,
slow.
they're definitely gonna take as much cues from WoW as possible. It makes sense.
It goes both ways. If I'm being completely honest, WoW has totally also stolen
Really?
any good part of from other MMOs.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, that makes sense. Yeah.
they're like the Apple of MMOs. Of if they see a good idea, they'll just refine it and steal it.
Yeah. All right. All right. Path of Exile. There's a lot here. So Path of Exile has been making some big waves in the gaming outer ARPG world. First off, there was this troll that was on Path of Exile that went on Reddit to our legal advice and said, hey, essentially, I want to know if I have a case against GGG because they banned my account for using Flask macros. I'm someone who's disabled and I can't constantly press the number 1 through 5 all day. So I have to use a Flask macro in order to use this mechanic, which were saying
illegal.
Right, it was just illegal, but they were also claiming like you have to do this mechanic in order to play this game effectively. And what happened was, because Reddit is such a fucking shithole, there was a lot of people trying to give him advice like, oh yeah, you definitely have this fucking you definitely have a case here. You should go against GGG. This is definitely illegal, blah blah blah. It's like, wait a second, hold on a second. You can't use macros in this game. It's just an unfair advantage. And it does bring up a discussion on accessibility for games. But the thing is, one of the people that was in the Path of Exile subreddit, they were like, look, Path of Exile has never catered to accessibility. They once removed a colorblind option for people who are colorblind because there's gem colors. And they removed that option to make it less accessible to those people. So you could have a case maybe if they did make the game more accessible to these people, but you only have the history of Path of Exile making it less accessible. So first of all, you have no case there. Second, it's against TOS and it kind of breaks the service of the game. And then Path of Exile came out, the developers, and they were like, look, we never banned anyone for this reason or anything like this. And then it kind of came out that this guy was just making shit up and who the fuck knows what's going on. And that essentially kind of gives you the idea of the community of Path of Exile right now. So you would imagine, right? You have this odd trolling community of just like man children. And now you have a new league launch, Ultimatum launch. It looks sick. There's this cool Ultimatum system. A lot of people are hyped for it. They showed off new Path of Exile 2 stuff, which looks awesome. They fucking nerfed the entire league, like, into the ground. All the meta is shaken up. They removed this split crafting system, which was allowing the top 1% to just farm mirrors all the time. Well, now they just fucking nerf that into the ground. So now you can't do 100% deliriums every day, all day. So everyone was kind of like, holy shit, this is crazy. They're shaking everything up. Well, everyone's excited. They go into it. And then you get hit with a queue when you go to play, right? You have to sit into a queue. And it was a problem because you're just like, I want to play. Well, then we found out that GGG was giving streamers queue priority. So if you were a streamer, a popular streamer, you could essentially jump the queue and get into it. And a lot of people were going nuts because if you want to get as fast as to the end game as possible so you can farm good items, so you can set the price on them and you can kind of set what the economy is. And that's why a lot of people, when the new league drops, they want to go as fast to the end and try to farm as much as possible, which does take a lot of work. It's not easy to do. And then on top of that, you had all these crazy server issues and disconnects where it's like every 5 minutes you're getting disconnected and then you have to wait in a queue. But the big issue is the streamer priority. And I want to know what you guys have, kind of your thoughts on this. So a lot of people were upset because there is an advantage, a very minute advantage at being first to the end game. And essentially GGG was saying it's a money advantage. Yeah. Entirely. Yeah. And GG was saying we are allowing streamers to kind of have a little bit of an advantage over anyone else in this situation because we're going to give them priority. But then I kind of was like, all right, well, it kind of sucks. I'm not quick enough to get to that point anyway. I'm getting there, but I'm not quick enough right now. And I'm like, all right, that kind of sucks. But it makes sense to me because these are, the biggest members of this game. They're stewarders of this game. And they were bringing on people like Shroud and Asmongold and like really big name streamers that don't really stream Path of Exile to play. And of course they're going to say, okay, let's give them priority into this. And it just sucked.
It's also worth noting that half of those streamers already played the game beforehand. They just didn't stream it.
Yeah. And
so it wasn't like they're new to it either.
Yeah. And it was just like, all right, well, it makes sense to me because, this is still a business and they're, it's technically marketing. And, if we're going to be honest, a lot of these people who are setting the economy aren't really streamers. They're the people that are just like fucking insane at this game. And there were some guys who were like, I didn't get priority. And he's like one of the, top racers in the league. So it was really interesting how this just devolved into this mass discussion on, are streamers worth more to a gaming company than their audience that would, otherwise pay money, otherwise spend supporter packs or whatever the argument is for how, a normal player would play. And I just was thinking like, all right, there is an interesting discussion there, especially with GGG. A lot of these streamers did opt to say, I don't want to be a part of this priority system, where some did, some didn't. And, I kind of was just like, all right, this kind of sucks because this was a huge hype launch. I'm a huge GGG stan these days. This is a huge hype launch. They're having fucking server issues, so they're on, they have Shroud and all these big guys streaming it. That's going to get the game out to a lot of people, and they can't even fucking play the game. And now you have this issue with like, oh, now they're giving streamers priority, and this is how they're going to treat the gaming industry. And it's just like, it was kind of a very unfortunate occurrence that happened on the launch of this league. But I'm just curious, like, I don't know, what do you guys think about like the streamer priority? Do you think it's that big of a deal, mainly in a game where there is somewhat of an advantage for, I guess, progression is the best word? Because I know obviously no one would give a shit if there was no advantage, but because there is a slight advantage, is that a problem?
No.
Yeah.
Like, it is a slight advantage to play that game a lot early, because then you get drops, you get loot, etc., things that you can sell. The problem is it's not really that good of an advantage, because you still have to have someone to buy said item.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, it's an advantage that you can start getting them, and maybe you can get some extra currency, but like, you're talking about like someone, the luckiest people are going to get like an Exalt.
Yeah.
Now
let me ask you, despite the type of advantage, just the fact that it is an advantage, you know what I mean? Just the fact that there is somewhat of an advantage there. Do you feel like they shouldn't have done that rather?
No, because it's still mostly a single player game, and it only matters when you're trading. Like, it's really not that much of an advantage, if I'm being completely honest. It's still something that you can completely ignore if you want to.
Yeah.
Like,
this is kind of why I think it's interesting.
I think it's interesting, but I also think it's a bunch of people who just like are fucking crybabies, I guess, just because it's like literally none of this affects you.
Yeah.
None of this is going to affect your entire league, anything at all. Literally, it doesn't. The only thing it affects you is, oh, you're gonna play for the first like 24 hours.
Yeah.
That sucks. That I agree with you. Trying to like make an argument of like, oh no, the streamer got economy gifted. Like, who fucking cares? It literally doesn't affect you.
Yeah.
Literally at all.
Yeah, I have the same exact outlook, and I rather the game the game be out there more. Like, I want more people I want more people playing it. The game isn't that big. It's not a massive fucking title. For some reason, a lot of this community thinks like this game is like, billions of people are playing. It's like Steam numbers are extremely low. It's not that big of a game.
I will say it's also because no one plays it on Steam anymore. It used the official client.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But nonetheless, it's just like, all right. I think a lot of this is going into that. A lot of this is like a lot of people feel like you have to reach like the maximum min-max level of this. You have to be pressing all the flask macros at all times and having the absolute best gear at all fucking times. And it's like, all right, I understand. Like, you don't have to go into that realm to to play the game. Like, you're gonna get there eventually. You don't have to. You know what I mean? It's a very interesting dynamic where they feel like if they are limited in any way to that, then it's a fucking, the world's on fire or whatever.
That was the funniest part about the whole flask macro thing and all of that bullshit. If you are spamming all of your flasks at once, you are a bad player. That is not how the game is intended or designed to be played. If you panic flask, you are a bad player.
Yeah.
That was like, you were hurting yourself by panic flasking. That's what's probably the funniest part about all of that. It's because they don't like stack, you know what I mean? It's just like, you're just wasting resources.
Yeah, especially like a boss, like you're just burning. Yeah. You just burned out all your flasks in your first. Okay. Yeah, it's been interesting seeing the community. I don't know about the whole PathofExile community, but just specifically this subreddit and how they kind of treat GGG. It seems like because it does seem to be getting a little bit more attention from outside of, its initial hardcore audience. It is bringing a little bit more of this toxic community and entitlement. I mean, like, there's people crying. Literally, like, I was going through it all because I was waiting in queue, and I was like, let's just go and just fight with these people on this subreddit. And I mean, there were people saying like, GGG should give me this, they should give me these microtransactions. They should, just because you had to wait a little, like, everyone is affected by these disconnects. You know what I mean? Like, do you think GGG wants people to not play their game? It's like, it's unfortunate. It happens when there's, you know, when a gaming server gets pounded on launch. It happens to every game. It sucks. You got to kind of deal with it. The streamer priority. Yes, streamers are worth more to them than just someone that's playing the game. Unfortunately, that's just the fact of the matter. You know, it's marketing for them. There's no other way around it. They're using them as marketing, as PR. Of course, they're going to give them some sort of priority. Now there's conversations like, oh, well, if their streamers are getting priority queue, are they getting drop queue? Are they getting better RNG? You know what I mean? Are they getting priority drops? Is that why when I play the game, I don't get a tabula on the first day, and when they play the game, they do?
CS:GO loot crates.
It's out of control.
I mean, it reminds me when I don't know if you guys know who Aris is, avoiding the puddle. But he got a mirror drop. And it's all his chat would talk about. But he was playing, I think, on console, and apparently mirror drops are more common on console than PC.
Yeah. You would be freaking the fuck out if you got a mirror.
Yeah, that's like...
Yeah, he spent the entire time just, like, shitting on viewers who kept asking questions about it. It's hilarious to watch.
That's pretty fucking awesome. But playing on console, Jesus Christ. Okay.
What?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Not lying, though, I did download it for PS5 just to try it out, and I immediately deleted it. All right. So there's my Path of Exile talk. The community is out of fucking control. I should say the r/Path of Exile community. I can't wait to go in and, you know, play this league. It's so super fun. If you're thinking about getting into it, just know it is not an accessible game. This is the other thing we should talk about is the nerfs, right? The one thing that I love about GGG, no matter what, they never cease to disappoint me in making this game harder. They do not want to make this game any easier. Anytime there's anything that people exploit, they nerf it. And I'm so happy they do. I'm so happy they make this game harder and harder. Because that's why I like to play it. And I realize, like, yes, I like the loot. I like the fucking slot machine thing. But I really like the fact that it's not accessible. People talk about, well, you know, this system, new players can't play it. Fuck new players. I don't give a fuck about new players. Don't care about them. Nothing about new players, right? You want to get into this game. The reason why this game fucking rocks is because it's so unforgiving. You know, people talking in the subreddit every day about having like wrist strain injury, RSI. And it's just like, good. Like, that's awesome. This fucking rocks. Make it less accessible. If you're colorblind, guess what? You can't play it.
Bye-bye.
All right? All right, there's my little sound drops for you. I'm going to have to use the soundboard more often. It's way more fun.
Keep yapping, man.
All right. Any other news? Bowser. Wait a second. I have a question about this because when I read this, isn't Doug Bowser... Oh, this is Gary Bowser. Doug Bowser is the guy that works at Nintendo, right?
Doug Bowser is the president of Nintendo in North America.
Now,
what
Nintendo
Reggie used to be
is suing Bowser over Switch hacks. When I saw this, I was like, wait, is Doug Bowser hacking the Switch?
Bowser is suing Bowser for accessing Bowser.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So then I read this, I was very confused. There's the fact that there's all these Bowsers. The fact there's all these Bowsers when I've never seen one Bowser in my entire 30 years of living. They're all surrounded by Nintendo. It does kind of make sense. So Nintendo's suing Bowser over Switch hacks, and they are charging him with trafficking, which is a pretty insane charge. So yeah, don't, I guess, engage in illegal trafficking of IP theft. I guess that's what that would be. Nintendo's looking for damages $2,500 for each trafficked device, as well as $150,000 for each copyright violation. Of course, Nintendo also wants to shut down Bowser's operations for good.
Yeah, these guys are part of Team Executor. Team Executor is a long-running hacking group. They've made mod.
You sure it's not Team Executor?
Executor? What did I say? Executor?
Executor. I mean, it could go both ways. I mean, technically, you're right. It is Executor.
But they've been selling mod chips apparently as far back as the original Xbox. So they go back a ways.
How do you think they caught them? I mean, you would think maybe they just didn't expect to be sued. You know what I mean? This was last year, 2020, 11 felony accounts. They've been doing this for decades. Maybe they were just like, yeah, you know, it's just something that we do. Maybe they feel like they have a lawsuit or they feel like they have a defense. You would think that they would have stopped after some sort of like cease and desist sent by Nintendo. You know what I mean? To go to court for felony trafficking for modding games seems like a crazy thing that you wouldn't want to deal with.
Yeah. It seems like it, you know, but I never know with people.
Yeah.
I mean, Nintendo has they don't care. Like they went after the
can't care.
couple.
They can't
Yeah,
care.
yeah. I mean, it comes to IP. They have to like protect their IP.
Do they have to protect it at this level? I mean, you know, did Microsoft have to?
I mean, the severity is a thing that can be argued about because what was the couple that was doing like they were hosting the ROM site and they went after them for like an exorbitant amount of money.
Yeah.
It's like a married couple from like Ohio.
Yeah. They don't give a fuck, man. They want to be selling Nintendo shit. That's the bottom line.
Don't screw with Nintendo and don't screw with their properties.
Yeah. Now this is like people saying like, oh, you know, video game preservation and piracy and this and that. It's like, I get that. Trust me, I
There are the
understand
people that are like,
I do.
emulation is illegal. And it's like, well, no, emulation's a gray area. It's not illegal to have an emulator.
It's mostly illegal because no one has
it's illegal,
the
It's
source.
illegal to download and upload ROMs of games, especially of those that you don't own.
Which
But
everyone
if you
does
were
that has an
to
emulator.
have an emulator and you were to take a copy of your game and rip it yourself, you're within your legal rights to make that backup.
Yeah. But no one does that. No.
That's why a lot of places are like, we can share emulators, we just can't share ROMs. Because, I mean, that makes sense. When you're sharing an emulator, that's not illegal. Once you start sharing ROMs, the actual intellectual properties, that's where you get into pretty much piracy.
You wouldn't download a car, would you?
Yep.
It's like the second time this week somebody has said that.
Really? I feel bad now. All right, that's the last story there. That's it. And then the Canon we don't have to talk about this. There's not much there's not much news that's come out of it. They're releasing a Canon R3 which is
1DX body.
With a 1DX body. The idea is like, okay, well, does that mean a 1DX is coming out or an R1 coming out? And then obviously this would be above the R5. But there's no specs, like we don't really know too much. We know that it's going to be like an A1 competitor. So it's probably going to be more focused on sports and high frame rate shooting. And I think there is a global shutter that's confirmed on here, which is pretty cool.
Ooh.
But nonetheless,
Yeah, got Olympics coming.
Actually, I lied. Not a global shutter, a stacked CMOS shutter. The way that the Sony A1 does it. Apologize there, but
that's cool, but less cool.
Yeah, I think the R1 had the rumors of a global shutter, so maybe that's why I got them confused. But anyways, yeah, that's the news. There's no like video specs on it, so anyone who's worried about video, which is most people these days, we don't have anything like that. I would expect the RC, the rumored RC, to fill that gap more than this one. This one does seem to be an A1 competitor and for the Olympics and shit like that. And it'll probably be like 10 grand. And what does that mean for an R1? You know, actually, I wouldn't say this would be 10 grand because I didn't expect the R5 to be the price that it was. So maybe we look at 7-8 grand. Maybe the R1 comes out at $999. Who knows?
No, just make it 10 grand because then you can spend 20 grand to match it with your 400 mil.
There you go.
For your sports shooting.
Oh, they also did release a 100 macro. That's for like $1,200. A 100 millimeter RF macro, which actually looks sick, and I'm probably gonna get one. And I actually haven't gotten my cam link in yet, so I'm waiting on that to try that out. I'll give you guys updates on how.
I'll be
that's
honest,
like.
dude. I know they take great image quality. The new RF 400 and 600 look ugly as hell compared to the old ones.
Yeah, I don't like the way that they look either, or the one
Looks like they took something very iconic and made it trash.
Yeah.
looks wise, exterior looks wise, which I realize matters nothing, but like that old EF white body is just iconic.
I agree. The big fucking white with the red ring.
Yeah. And now it's like weird slimmed and like I hate where it slims in the glass shape with like the telescope. Like yeah. I don't know.
But I do know we are getting some camera news coming out. So we're getting some camera stuff. We got the Sony R4 or whatever version that the Sony S4 or whatever S7 A7 IV. So we're gonna start to get some new camera info coming soon, which will be fun. Last year was so much fun with all that stuff. It was just like one after the other. It was such a good time to be in the camera world. And it's been like, all right, well now we have to wait for them to kind of sell their stuff and get ready for the next batch. And it looks like the next batch is gonna be coming probably sometime this summer. We'll start to see more stuff. So it looks like kind of like on a summer basis. That's when they release all this stuff. All right. And that's it for the show, everyone. Let's give a round of applause to Doobie and Jerry. Hey, congrats for being great co-hosts here. Every Sunday, 12 p.m. Eastern, we come at you live. Twitch, No Life Digital over on YouTube, and head over to our website where you can follow our podcast, subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, nolife.digital. Okay? Bye-bye.